Let me paint you a picture. The boss of FIFA, the most powerful man in world football, steps off a private jet. He watches a match. Then he gets back on that same private jet, flies to a different city, sometimes in a different country, and watches a second match on the same day. And he's doing it again the next day and the day after that. 2 cities a day, match after match, jet engine after jet engine, while his organization stands on stage and lectures the rest of us about sustainability, electric vehicles, recycling, and saving the planet. A deal so toxic that over 100 professional female footballers signed a letter begging FIFA to end it. And the private jet Infantino flies around in was provided by Qatar Airways, another FIFA partner. When you factor in the indirect emissions tied to these fossil fuel sponsorships, one analysis from Play the Game suggests FIFA's 2026 World Cup footprint could balloon to a staggering 70 million tons of carbon dioxide. So FIFA preaches sustainability on stage while taking money from the biggest polluter on Earth, while its president circles the continent in a jet provided by an airline sponsor. You genuinely could not write a more perfect picture of saying one thing and doing the exact opposite. And the most damning detail of all, FIFA had a choice. An England fan flying from London and attending every England match through to the final could rack up nearly 15,000 miles of travel and generate about 3.5 tons of carbon dioxide. The equivalent of heating an average UK home for 19 months just to watch football. And England is one of the lucky ones. South Africa's fans, if they followed their team deep into the tournament, could face over 26,000 miles and nearly 6 tons of carbon dioxide per person. More than the average South African emits in an entire year. A scientist from Scientists for Global Responsibility called the BBC's estimates deeply disturbing, noting that for one England fan, 3.4 to 4 tons is 2 to 3 times the entire yearly emissions of an average person in a poorer country like Haiti. And the teams are no better off. Bosnia and Herzegovina face over 3,000 miles in the group stage alone, shuttling between Toronto, Los Angeles, and Seattle while returning to a base in Salt Lake City in between. This is not football logistics. It is a continental airline schedule with a ball at the end of it. Now, here is the irony that should make FIFA squirm. And it is the cruelest part of the whole story. This same tournament drowning the planet in carbon is also being hammered by the exact climate change it is accelerating. The heat at this World Cup has been dangerous and real. Studies show that 14 of the 16 host cities are likely to hit temperatures that the Players' Union argues should merit suspending matches. 10 of the 16 venues face a very high risk of extreme heat stress. That man is Gianni Infantino, and his private jet has just become the perfect symbol of the biggest scandal hanging over this entire World Cup. A climate disaster so large that scientists are now calling 2026 the most polluting tournament ever staged. So, let's go through it, all of it, because once you see the numbers, FIFA's green talk doesn't just look hollow, it looks like a lie. Depending on the study, somewhere between 80% and 90% of the entire footprint is air travel. The researchers put the aviation figure alone at 7.7 million tons, more than 4 times the average of World Cups held between 2010 and 2022. With worst-case predictions running as high as 13.7 million. A single match at this tournament is estimated to generate somewhere between 44,000 and 72,000 tons of carbon dioxide per match. And there are 104 of them. Now make it human, because this is where it stops being abstract. The New Weather Institute flat out called this the most polluting event ever. The BBC ran the numbers on what following your team actually costs. Two years ago, they were offered a bid to host the Women's World Cup from Belgium, the Netherlands, and Germany. It was a bid where every single match venue would have been reachable by train. No flying required. FIFA rejected it. And it is not slowing down. The 2030 World Cup will be split across Morocco, Portugal, and Spain, with 3 extra matches all the way over in South America. The 2034 tournament goes to Saudi Arabia with 11 stadiums, none of which even exist yet. The sprawl is not an accident. It is the business model. And it is only getting bigger, and even all of that might be undercounting it because there is a whole slice of this footprint that FIFA's sustainability reports never even mention. Infantino's jet is not the scandal. It is the symbol of the scandal. Because the real emissions monster is not one man's travel habit. It is the entire structure FIFA deliberately chose to build. Let me explain, because this is where it goes from embarrassing to genuinely damning. This is the first World Cup ever held across 3 countries, the United States, Canada, and Mexico. FIFA expanded the field from 32 teams to 48, which pushed the number of matches from 64 all the way up to 104. They spread those games across 16 stadiums scattered up to 2,800 miles apart across 4 time zones from Vancouver to Miami. And when you design a tournament that big, that spread out over distances that wide, you are not designing a football tournament anymore. You are designing a machine that runs on jet fuel. Because over those distances, flying is not a choice. It is the only option. A geographer at the University of Lausanne, David Gogishvili, gave this its perfect name. He calls it FIFA's sustainability paradox. By reusing existing stadiums, mostly NFL venues scattered across an entire continent, FIFA created a model that is, in his words, structurally dependent on high-emission air travel. They love to brag that they did not build new stadiums this time, unlike Qatar. And that is true. But Gogishvili nails the trick. Yes, they got rid of one source of pollution by not building stadiums, but they just increased it somewhere else by forcing everyone to fly enormous distances instead. You did not solve the problem. You moved it, and you made it bigger. And worse, he says, this model shifts the transport costs and carbon burdens onto the host regions and the fans. FIFA designs the sprawl. You pay for it with your money and with the planet. So, let's talk about the total, because the number is staggering. A 2025 report from Scientists for Global Responsibility, working with the Environmental Defense Fund and the Cool Down Initiative, estimates the overall carbon footprint of this World Cup could reach 9 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. 9 million tons.